good morning, Aragorn.
Oh yeah.
How you
Okay,
doing?
good morning. This is perfect. Let's roll the intro.
Yes.
Innovation Network, Patrick and Aragorn lead the way. Exploring tech's future, what will they say? Inspiring change with vision so bright, our hosts guide you through the future's light. Bridging the gap of exponential growth, Patrick and Aragorn share the truth. Join our community, let's innovate. With Innovation Network, create a brighter face.
Professional
I
fade out.
like this version. We're talking about the Rory 20s and we have music from the Rory 20s from 100 years ago. I love it.
Yeah, it's very good, isn't it? Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, man.
What
What
do
an
we-
interesting past 2 weeks. We have a packed agenda. Let's dive into it, buddy.
Absolutely. You lead the way.
Yeah, so now let's start with the fact that we are doing a new meetup with the entire network community, which I'm already looking forward to so much. We're doing this on the 9th of December, and it's open for everybody who is reading our newsletter, follow us on social, think that it's interesting to discuss the future of technology together. And last time we ended up with very vivid discussions. And this time we're going to do it at the Design Thinking Academy, a Design Thinking Center in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about that location... Sorry?
No, I was going to say you arranged as a very cool location.
Yeah. It's the cool thing about this location is that it basically is a gym space. It's an office that looks like a gym space with all kind of lines on the floor and they have all kind of panels. So it's perfectly for dividing this into discussion groups, doing presentations. A big thanks also to the Design Thinking Center that they give us the space to do this. Pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and for those people that have never been there, just something so to have an idea what to look forward to. I've been there on two occasions, and the walls move. So they have these walls that can move, and that allows you to continuously change your space to set it up differently for different groups, and then you can work with post-its or whatever and work out all of your ideas on these walls. So it's very cool. We have cool locations every single time. Of course, last time at the High Tech Campus in Eindhoven was also cool, but this gives us a whole new dimension to the interaction aspect and building ideas aspect. Yeah, it's very cool.
Absolutely. So if you read this and hear this for the first time, you can sign up now. We'll leave the link in somewhere in the comments. And let's move to the other big event, because last Friday my wall was kind of flooding with robots.
Oh yeah.
And robo taxis and Robovans, as Elon calls them.
Actually, I've realized he didn't call them robotaxis at all. He called them CyberCabs and the Robovans. Yeah,
Robovan. Yeah, he's kind of
the Robovan.
The Robovan. Well, the Robovan was a big surprise for me. I was not aware that he was working on something like that. Did you know that?
I was not aware. I wasn't even aware that he was working on autonomous riding taxis as a separate thing. I was definitely aware that he aimed to make all his cars autonomous. And I had already surmised that would mean ultimately that all of those would become possibly available in some kind of taxi fleet service. But I thought that would be merely a software thing. Yeah. So I thought that everybody that owns a Tesla would be able to opt into his taxi program and then basically join his fleet, and that it would be something like that. I had no idea that he was also developing a completely separate vehicle for this.
Yeah, it is a completely separate vehicle because the seats are placed differently. There's no steering wheel in there. There's one big screen in the middle for your entertainment while you're driving to the city from your location to location. But I think the real cool thing about this is that you can purchase this, own it, and then put it into production. So that will have a big impact on the economy for those people who can afford a car like that. But it's not as expensive. They think it could be priced up to $30,000 US.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, and of course, I guess that if you take the wheel out of a car and you remove everything that's non-essential, and you basically make a car that isn't also a family car, you can do that. Actually, personally, I think it looks super sick. By the way,
The way
I'm a
it
big
looks is
sucker for
amazing.
these.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big sucker for these kind of sci-fi looking things. I love how the doors open. They open up like some kind of wings. The Robovan, maybe less sexy, but definitely futuristic. And the whole event was called We Robot, which obviously was a pun at iRobot from
Yes.
Asimov. And I don't know if people have noticed it, but online you've already started to see the pictures of the comparison of the CGI cars and the taxis from the movie from, I think it was 2003, compared to this. So he was clearly inspired there.
Yeah. I just saw a
I
post this morning that the director of iRobot even made a remark that he felt that the the Optimus robot was looking too much like his iRobot.
Too much.
Yeah, it's a humanoid robot, right? They all look the same.
Yes, I exactly. I'm like, okay, what are people expecting here? This is such a weird thing to say, I would
Yeah,
argue.
so
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But what talking about the Optimus, the taxi, I was expecting it. It was announced, so you would expect to see a taxi. But the fact that Optimus played a big role there as well in serving drinks, in walking down the street and allowing people to have conversations with the robot, gave a peek into the near future to actually see how we can engage with these
Absolutely.
robots. People doing
Absolutely.
playing games with it, etc.
Yeah. To quote Elon during his talk, he said, you should be able to buy an Optimus robot for 20 to 30,000 US. So that's actually 10K less than what he had on their website up until very recently. I'm not surprised by that, of course. I mean, you and me know that Martijn Luckaert, somebody we know, ordered the Unitree G1 for 16,000. Now, of course, everybody knows that this might be a low-end type of model, but you have to keep in mind that these models can receive software updates, and so their abilities can still improve significantly over time. And then he said, what can it do? And I think that's where the real interesting thing jumps in. He says it can be a teacher, it can watch your kids. It can watch your kids is a big one. It can take the dog out. That's also a big one, because that means it would move out of the confines of your home, where you could have a reasonably controlled environment. It can do mow the lawn, do groceries. It can be your friends or even serve you drinks. And of course, for me, it's no surprise. I saw this coming, but for somebody to actually say this about a product that they're working on right now, I think goes quite far. And I would like to finish by saying that the fact that Tesla stock dropped 8%, 8.8% the next day, just shows how unprepared
Yes.
the world is for this. Because I honestly think that the market and the analysts and the stockbrokers, basically, they are like, okay, we don't believe this is coming anytime soon.
I was really amazed by that. And I read some articles online, and the critics of the investors is that it was unclear enough when the robots will be there, all these kind of things. But if you look at the trajectory, yeah, and exactly, we follow that trajectory, but the growth and the speed of development of the Optimus is just amazing, right? How quickly they are to where they are now. And there are also some memes on X floating around, seeing the Optimus 5 years ago and where it is now. And it is ready to hit the
5
street
years?
almost.
5 years ago?
Yeah, I thought I saw something like that about 5 years. 5 years
Okay.
ago.
No, I was just going to say they started work 3 years ago.
3 years. There you
So
go.
in 2021 is when they announced that they would start building Optimus. Now,
Wow,
I
that's even
was
more
surprised because that was longer than I thought. In my brain, it felt more like maybe 2 years ago. But I took that data and then I compared it to, for example, the Tesla Model S, right? And the reason I did that is because the Tesla Model S was the real first mass consumer product that they built, right? The Tesla Roadster came before that. And what I actually found was that it took Elon 3.9 years to go from the announcement of the Model S to putting it in mass production, right? Now, the Tesla Model S arguably was actually more complicated because it was the first EV to be ever built, and he still needed to figure out how to do the thing with the factory and everything. Now, for the robot, you could say that it's technologically a little bit it's challenging to get the hands right and all of that, and there's a lot of safety things involved. But on the whole, I think it's very comparable. So personally, I would be very surprised if we don't see some form of Tesla robot go into production within the next 12 months. And I'm not saying that this will be the version that will all get into our living rooms, but it will definitely be a version that will start working in his factories or something like that. And then within another year from that, so 2 years from now, I think we should expect some kind of mass production version of that to roll out. And then every version after that will go significantly faster, because Model Y, for example, took 0.8 years to go from announcement to production. And that shows how much he can do once he knows how it works and what the iteration process is and how fast and what is necessary to make it all work. Yeah.
And then the limiting factor becomes, will people allow robots on the street? Can we order one here in the Netherlands, for instance? And are they allowed to go outside and walk our dog and our neighbor's dog? Because that's also an interesting principle, right? Why don't you have a robot for the entire neighborhood to do the shopping or things like that as a collaborative asset from a group of people?
I didn't even think about that, but that makes so much sense. Imagine if you need to take care of your house and you just want to have some walls painted or some stuff like that. Although I have to say that these very kind of specific tasks, I think it will also take at least 2 years for the robots to be capable of that. I think the first robots that will come to the living room will have some limited kind of use cases. It all depends on how fast you can train them. And the thing is that if he were using Omniverse, he could train them very rapidly. And so this is why I have good hopes for things like other robot producers like Figure One. But so far, Elon Musk, also the cars, his Teslas, he's not training them in any kind of virtual simulated space, which is one of the reasons why it's taking Tesla longer to create autonomous driving cars, I think at least, than, for example, in China, where they're already driving around. Yeah. And I think a lot of that has to do with being willing to go into that simulated space. And he's only using real world data. I'm not entirely sure why he does that, but I do know that is a fact for the Tesla. So if he takes the same road with the robots, it will take a little longer to train them for absolutely everything. I think he should, but I wouldn't be surprised then again that once he has his mega supercompute clusters done, that he might also venture in doing that kind of simulated training. Maybe the reason he's not doing it is because he's not working with NVIDIA directly. And producing something like Omniverse himself would be too expensive or too much. I don't know. It's just speculation.
Is he not working with NVIDIA? Is he only purchasing the H100s and H200s and not using Groot or things like that? Is that what you're referring to? Or
actually, I'm not entirely sure, but that is the distinct impression that I'm getting. Why else would he not use something like Omniverse if he was? But we can...
Yeah. While you look it up, you just mentioned the Chinese working on robots. There's a small post that China just has 158 kilometers of highway completely created using only drones and robots. It's these type of use cases that should ring a bell with people saying how close this is. And it comes indeed via manufacturing and then construction. This is a big one.
Okay, yeah, so I want to respond to that, but I also looked up the information about Tesla-NVIDIA partnership. There is a Tesla-NVIDIA partnership, and it revolves specifically around autonomous driving. They use the hardware, but I can't see anything about Tesla using Omniverse or Groot. Tesla isn't specifically mentioned. Many automakers, see, so I just don't know. I can't find it right now either. As for China, this is... I can't even so this week there was an interesting podcast, and I did put it in our creative ideas somewhere. I don't know if we have the link, but where they talk about China. So the American assumption, and I was made to cry this morning because people are already posting online, innovation over one weekend in the US, and of course the taxis, the robots, and also the fact, because we haven't mentioned that Elon managed to catch
Elon had a good week.
Super heavy booster out of the air, which is mind-boggling. This is literally like building a pyramid and balancing it upside down. But anyway,
all our science fiction moves are becoming reality.
this guy, I don't understand how people can be so hating of Elon, because this guy just makes every impossible thing happen. Anyway, and then in Europe, and then you get this picture of this is one weekend of innovation in the US, and then Europe, we only get the connected bottle cap, which is like our only innovation. And I would laugh if it wasn't so painfully true. But then there is China. And in this podcast that I mentioned, they said the US likes to believe that China is 2 years behind on AI. But all the relevant research papers, all the relevant kind of progress in AI that is publicly published, right? The peer reviews, etc., the peer-reviewed papers, etc., they're all coming from China. They're all coming from China. And this guy said, and this made so much sense to me, he said, the fact that they're publishing this means that they're further ahead. What they're publishing is only what they are willing to share, and they're doing that because they want to attract more talent, because that's how it works. So they want to show the world we are doing interesting stuff, and if you're talented, you should come here and work with us on it.
Do you think they show that because they want to attract non-Chinese people to China to do that? The reason I'm asking is because they have millions of university PhD rolling in because it's such a large country.
I'm not sure they want to attract non-Chinese people, although it's possible. But I think that even for them to internally attract people, they need to do this. Right? I mean, there's no platform for just publishing only Chinese science papers. And once you put it public, you put it public. And they're doing that because they want to attract talent, even if it's within China. But the thing is that the American idea that China is behind is most likely a complete misconception. So that puts Europe squarely last.
Yes.
By a big margin. And that's something to really be worried about, especially combined with what we're seeing in legislation, because we are not only far behind in any type of innovation in this field, our consumers are not even allowed to use the newest and best. And that will put us at an incredible economic disadvantage over the next decade if we continue this trend.
Yeah. And the robots are one of those. I think they will walk the street and drive the streets much earlier in California than the rest of the states, then somewhere in China on these new highways. And before they are hitting Amsterdam, we are pretty far further down the road.
Yeah. Last week, I was in Prague. I spoke for Hydro Norsk, which is an incredible company, the world leader in aluminium mining and processing. And there was people from the unions there. And after my talk, everybody was very blown away by the potential future. But the union leader already came to me and said, "Oh, we'll need to slow this down, huh? This is going way too fast." And I don't blame the man, because I guess that is part of his nature and his job.
Yeah.
But I was thinking to myself, oh, buddy, if there's one thing you shouldn't be doing is slowing this down, because we're already at the back of the line.
Well, and even if for what purpose do you want to slow it down?
Well, I think that the idea that people like this have is that they have some kind of measure of control. If they slow it down, we can be better prepared, and we can do a kind of transition to this new reality in a way that doesn't hurt people. But that is just an illusion, because on the
Exactly.
we're doing this globally, right? There's never been a moment like today.
No.
We've never lived in a world that is so hyper-connected as we are, with the internet and everything. So what happens in one country will automatically influence what happens in another. So there's no way to avoid this, because if the race starts in one place, it will inevitably have an impact on every other place.
Absolutely.
And two, we're never prepared. Humanity's never prepared. Because if you're going to slow this down, people are just going to say, see, it's still not here. It's not going so fast. And then when it finally does, they'll still be unprepared, because that's how we are. So.
Slowing it down is the reason that we're behind in Europe, and that it also is not a good situation. So you have two situations that from that man's perspective, are both not good. And you should pick the one that is most advantageous to you. Yeah. So.
Yep.
Hey, let's talk a little bit about the rocket. We cannot skip it. It was pretty amazing.
The rocket.
SpaceX. Oh my goodness.
God.
Yeah, And then just that entire week of what Elon did in 1 week is just it's making everybody look lazy, like in a way.
He's making everybody look lazy. He's making the whole world look like they don't even know what innovation is. I don't know. I've bet against this man several times, and I keep the few times I did bet against him, I ended up regretting it. I called him the John Wick of technology because that's what he is. This man is just sheer will and determination, right?
Yeah.
And it's such an incredible power to have. And this just ties into why I don't understand why the Tesla stock dropped at all. Because if you see what this man is doing, you know that at this point, there's just bar and complete existential catastrophe where the whole human race is basically wiped out. This man is just not going to stop. And he's not going to let anything that he wants to do fail. He's just not going to allow it. Not only is he the richest guy in the world at this point and financially capable of pulling off incredible things, he spread his risk across now 3 different companies that each individually are building stuff that are simply so revolutionary that there will be a commercial success. And that allows him then to have so much leeway, even with the other companies, even if they temporarily fail.
All those companies are connected as well. And it's also what shareholders don't like. So shareholders are complaining about the fact that he's taking talent from one company to the other company because they might have shares in one company, not the other. But he's thinking completely different. He's just moving his talent around from one company to another because he needs it in order to put the rocket in space or have self-driving cars and all these things. It's a completely different, it's not a global mindset because he is very US focused, but at least across companies, much broader.
Absolutely. I think it just, what do you want to say?
No, I was thinking about you put something on to talk about a little bit further down the line, but maybe we should talk about it now because you wanted to talk about data centers in outer space and if that's a viable option or not.
He's going to build those. I have no doubt about that.
Yeah.
This is not something that he announced, but the moment this idea comes into his brain and he thinks it's viable, he's going to do it because he can.
Because he can. And with Starlink, it's a logical next step, right? So I just said that he's not thinking globally. Well, if he is thinking globally, Starlink is providing the entire world, including the North Poles and the Sahara, with internet connections.
Yeah.
And with a data center... Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to say that I actually saw some papers on government projects being assigned, right? You have to do a tender, even in the US, you tender, and then you get funding. So, for example, in Tesla, they wanted to open up remote areas with fiberglass internet, I think it was. And Elon actually tweeted about this because when the documents became public of who the tenders were assigned to, it turned out that there was... and this is, of course, the United States, there had to be, it was inferred that there was corruption going on because the tenders were actually assigned to companies that were costing 10 or even 100 times as much per square kilometer as Starlink was, right? So basically, Elon Musk can now open up any area in the world for under $1,500 for a square kilometer with Starlink, whereas their competitors who still use traditional infrastructure that have to put cables in the ground, they cost like 10,000 or even 100,000 to get to that same area. And people are really just completely underestimating. This guy is just single-handedly leapfrogging a whole age of technology, creating products and services that are all seamlessly integrated with each other. And because he owns them, his cost will basically be zero by the time it's all completed for usage. Think about it. Do you think that any of Elon's companies is paying for internet right now? Nope.
Oh, no.
Nope.
And the way that he thinks ahead is just so cool because now the biggest discussion about AI for the naysayers is, of course, the energy. And you see now people starting up nuclear reactors even to power these kind of things. And then he comes with an idea. I don't know even if I'm sure he's thinking about this, putting these data centers into space because then we have them solar powered right away. Because if you put them further down the atmosphere, the solar power that you can capture is way higher and you can fuel these things with solar power. So what are we talking about? These are the solutions that are solving the problems from the naysayers that we have an energy crisis on our hand. There are solutions in doing that.
Yeah. And even beyond that, did you hear what he said about the Teslas? About the Robovans and the Teslas, during his talk at the event, he specifically mentioned that the chips that they're putting in these cars will be basically more than they need. So he's actively speccing all the cars to have chips that are more capacity than he needs, because he's already thinking about how, if he has several 100 million cars in the fleet, then that means he has several 100 million chips that are basically moving around, that can all can communicate with each other, and that will allow him to basically offload all kinds of tasks to be done by the chips in the cars that are driving around, so that he will have compute all over the place in the most decentralized manner. And he's already thinking about ways to use that. Nobody is thinking like that. Nobody is thinking like that.
So maybe people are thinking about like that. I'm sure many people are thinking, but nobody's able to execute it like him.
We do sound like some Elon Musk fanboys right now.
Well, after the past week, yeah, he took a couple of steps up in my cool book, definitely.
Yeah. I was thinking about the fact that he supports that he supports Donald Trump. But honestly, at this point, I've also seen several videos of, and I don't want to make this a political episode, but what I'm seeing from the presidential candidates in the US, you have to wonder, is there any good choice? And if there isn't, then what would you do? I'm even at the point where I think that the only reason he's supporting Trump is because it's just, in his eyes, the least bad choice in two really bad ones. And by trying to connect with the probable winner of the next election, he's trying to put himself in a position where he will be better capable of influencing the system as a whole.
Absolutely.
Can't blame him for that either.
No. All said. Nothing to add to that. No. You want to talk about the giga computing clusters as well? To talk about?
Yeah.
I don't know what you had in mind to discuss.
Well, I don't know what I had in mind, but there's lots of things to be said about it. One of the main questions that I keep getting is around energy. Right, I've done 3 keynotes last week, and at every single one, there's at least one person that says, "But Aragorn, don't we need an incredible amount of energy? And isn't that going to be bad for the environment?" Because just to have you know, right now they're planning for at least 3 to 5 computer gigaclusters to be built around the world. Right, at least 2 in the US. Yeah. And to give you an idea, each of these gigaclusters will require, at least a full nuclear power plant, if not multiple power.
About a gigawatt one, or if they go extreme, it's 2 gigawatts. And
exactly.
Average nuclear plant does 1 to 1.5 gigawatts.
Yeah. Like that. So that is also the same as, I don't know, maybe 1 million households, or maybe that's a little bit too much. But I mean, it's an incredible amount of energy. The thing that people keep forgetting when they talk about this is that the truth about humanity is that we're going to increase our energy usage anyway. The question is, what are we going to use that energy for, right? Are we only going to build things that are completely useless and only drive our economy so that we can keep our capitalism going for as long as possible and keep using up natural resources? Or are we going to build things that further our technology, further our science, further us as a human race, that will then allow us to further down the road start to actually improve things again? And when I look at AI, and you too, because we're very into this, we know that AI last year allowed us to find 2 million new materials, which is we're not even seeing that on the market today. So over the next few years, material science is going to be revolutionized. We're going to see the packaging for products in the supermarket change to things that are way more sustainable than anything we've had so far. We're going to move away from plastics that dissolve into microplastics to something probably completely different, probably something organic. We found 200 million new proteins. So we're literally made more progress in a single month towards solving cancer, right? All 200 different versions of it and all these major diseases than we've made in the entire human history prior, all due to AI. And this is just 2 things. Yeah. We've made more progress in the last 6 months on nuclear fusion than we've made in the entire 100 years prior. So AI just has this upside that is so incredible, and most people just simply don't realize this, that I believe it's so worth the investment into this, right? Because it will pay itself off. It will help us It will help us fight climate change and improve the environment. It will help us repair our relationship to nature. So I'd much rather spend it on that than on anything else. Because if we're not building these giga clusters for AI, we're going to find some other bullshit reason to use way more energy, and it's not going to benefit anything or anyone in the future. And we've seen this with nuclear energy in the 70s.
Yeah, you said a couple of interesting things there. I think that also that I don't have a problem with nuclear energy in the first place. I think it's actually a very good solution to do that. And even also, if we use AI, we might get to nuclear fusion, as you just said. We have to go through that transition to get into fusion power. If we have that, we even further. But also, maybe there are also solutions for the nuclear waste via AI. I don't know. Maybe that is.
But
That's
that is
also
already
small.
seen. Yeah, but the nuclear waste is already such a misconception. People are not aware of this. We don't really have any more nuclear waste because all new reactors, or most new reactors that are being built, are built in a way that the nuclear waste from a reactor can be used to create a new reactor.
Oh, yeah, no. I did not know that. I did not know that.
No, exactly.
And
but
neither do the public, right? They are scared of
no,
Fukushima and
exactly.
Chernobyl.
Yes.
Yeah.
The only thing I can say is imagine if we had gone 100% in on nuclear energy in the 70s and we had kept investing and we had kept really developing this technology at the exponential pace rather than sabotage it as we did. Then today's world would look completely different. And I can highly recommend people watch Oliver Stone's documentary called Nuclear Now, because it puts everything so well in perspective. The guy is a great documentary maker, and it really puts things in perspective. If we had really gone for it in the 70s, we probably wouldn't have our climate change issues today. We would have other problems for sure, but we would be significantly less challenged on that front. And let's not do this. Let's not make the same mistake with AI. Is what I really want. I hope that people will realize in time.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Okay, let's move on to another topic. I saw I have to put this up so we can look at this together. I want to show you the usage of AI apps through the past year. The top 15 generative AI tools with the highest web traffic. Oh, this is old March. I didn't see that, but I wanted to look at it together now to have a discussion on it. It's old, but the interesting crazy delta between the number one and the number two was resonating with me. But also, what was striking to me is that Poe, we have talked about Poe in an earlier podcast and newsletters, is outperforming Perplexity in this overview. Then, amazing.
Yeah, that's surprising. I wouldn't have guessed that either. I have to admit, though, and this could tie into that
Poe
has a way broader range of models to use. Right? Yeah. Poe has 15 models or more that you can use, even separate or different versions of Llama, etc. So I could see the appeal. If you want the broadest kind of availability, then using Poe might be an interesting choice. Yeah, but I'm even surprised that Gemini is so high because I use Gemini all the time.
Yeah.
And even with Gemini 1.5 Pro, it just hallucinates like no tomorrow. Like literally, I had a conversation with it yesterday for 5 minutes where it just hallucinated basically every answer. And that just makes it so unreliable
tell
to
me
use.
More. Tell me more about the level of hallucination that you encounter. What is the question and what type of errors does it make?
Yesterday, to give you the example, I'm sitting here behind my computer and my phone is over here. It's on the charging stand, so it's very easy to talk to. So I'll show you. Hey, Google. On what day last week was the We Robot event by Tesla and Elon Musk, and what was it about?
Sure, I can help with this. First, please unlock your phone.
Okay, unlock your phone. I don't know why it wants me to unlock the phone now. But the crazy thing is that it did again what it did yesterday. So it's hearing me say we, and it interprets that as we from Nintendo. So WII. And I have no freaking clue why it does that. But then what it did was yesterday, it said that there was no We Robot event. You're probably thinking of the Tesla AI event in 2023. then it continues to give me a whole story. And I said, no, I know what I'm talking about. I know that there was an event. So look it up for me. But it keeps using the wrong word. So it just, for some reason, it keeps using the Wii from Nintendo Wii, which is such a weird mistake to make, right? But then it gives me the wrong dates all the time. It just gives me random dates of events that don't exist. And then when I tell it, like, look, what the hell are you doing? You're just talking nonsense to me. It keeps apologizing. And it makes the whole usage of it just impossible, because I'm now at the point where I had Gemini hallucinate so often when I ask it simple questions that I don't trust it.
No,
I can't trust it because I always need to double check.
And why do you keep on using it then?
Yeah, because I'm always hoping that it will give me the right answer. And it's so convenient, because what I really want is this. What you just saw is what I want. I want to be able to stand here behind my desk, ask a question and get an answer. And for some weird reason, we still don't have a desktop app for ChatGPT that allows that to do that. We still don't. This is another thing that frustrates me no end. I cannot change the Google trigger thing for my phone. I always have to use that stupid thing. And I can't set it so it has a different voice assistant. And now I have these earbuds, and if you double press them, it's supposed to give you a voice assistant. But the only choices you have are Alexa or Google. So I can't choose ChatGPT.
Alexa's good. I do have the app because I'm working here on a Mac, but I do not get the advanced voice mode. And here's the thing with me: once I have tasted the upper tier of a model, I don't want to go back. And I don't have my phone installed like you have over there. I could do it on my phone and tunnel it like you explained last time. But why is it not working on my Mac if I am VPN to Canada?
This is another thing I don't understand, is you don't want to go back. Like you said, you don't want to go back from advanced mode. You could VPN tunnel it. But what I don't understand is that Perplexity has a very good voice mode on Android and iPhone. But again, it's not available on desktop. And again, and with Perplexity, although on the one hand they made it very nice, that if you holding the phone, don't know if you can see this.
Yeah, I can see it, yeah.
You have this red button for press and hold, which gives you a lot more control, so you don't have to try and interrupt it all the time. You can just go like Perplexity. When was the Wii robot event from Tesla last week?
The Wii robot event by Tesla took place on October 10th, 2024.
See, and it gets it right straight away.
Yeah.
And a simple short answer.
Yeah.
So Perplexity is great for this, but I can't, there's just no way for me to make this hands-free. Right?
No,
there's no way.
That's the downside of that. Works nicely if you have it in your hand, right? Yeah.
Yes, but that forces me to pick it up, and I just don't get it, because it seems to me that this is such an obvious thing that everybody wants, and nobody's giving it to us.
A switch on the app to toggle between: do you want the Perplexity way of communicating, or you want to just put it down as speech? How difficult would that be, right?
I even if I could just turn it on, put it back in the stand, and leave it so that it listens for me to talk, that would be great. But they're not giving us that. I have no idea why. And the crazy thing is that the moment Windows is going to roll this out, that's going to be insane, because they're working on that. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to comprehend. Anyway.
Yeah, so maybe we have to be a little bit patient. What's next? Maybe it's interesting to talk a little bit about Ilya Sutskever's $5 billion one-shot company. He has got a significant investment in a company called SSI, Safe Super Intelligence Inc.
Yeah.
What do you expect?
Yeah, what do I expect? The first thing that comes to mind for me is that, on the one hand, we have AGI skeptics, even here in the Netherlands, right? We have Professor Iris van Rooij. She's very loud about how she is convinced, and she keeps beating her drum with a paper that she released, I think it was last year, about how it's intractable, which basically is mathematical terms for we will never be able to do the kind of compute necessary to create intelligence.
Yeah, well, Go
Human
was
level
also
intelligence.
intractable.
That's the thing. Whenever these kind of scientists come, even with their papers and their proofs of what's impossible, all I can think is Arthur C. Clarke's first law, which is, I'm going to look it up exactly this time. See, this is where, okay, I'm just going to try it again. Hey, Google, what's Arthur C. Clarke's first law?
Arthur C. Clarke's first law is, when a distinguished but elderly scientist states that something is possible, he is almost certainly right. When he states that something is impossible, he is very probably wrong.
That was okay. I accept that.
It was around the topic that you wanted to convey. Yeah, indeed.
No, it is Arthur C. Clarke's first law. So that's my point. Arthur C. Clarke said basically, if a scientist says something is impossible, then he's probably wrong.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I see a lot going on right now. I don't think anything is impossible. It's just a matter of, can we figure out the science behind it? And when it comes to AGI, coming back to the topic with Ilya Sutskever is the world's leading mind on AI, right? He is the Einstein of artificial intelligence. So when this man says, give me money and I can one-shot AGI, that's something to take very serious. This is not, I just struggle with the idea that these career scientists that have built their entire career on saying that something is impossible and now try to maintain that kind of narrative. I struggle with accepting that they have a better idea of what they're doing than this man who's already literally pushed the frontier of AI further than all of them combined. Right?
Yeah.
So that's one. So I think that's a clear indication that it's possible, one. What I find worrying about all of this is that Ilya wants to do this, and then Sam Altman went to his investors, if you're investing in OpenAI, don't invest in Ilya.
There's something not completely
And that
right
is
there, right?
No, it's the first time that I've started to get some serious doubts about Sam Altman and why and how he's doing things. Because if he were truly, this is my reasoning, if he were truly invested in getting humanity to save AGI as fast as possible, but in a safe way, in a way that benefits everyone. Like, I still have it in my keynote where he says, when intelligence gets integrated everywhere, we'll all get superpowers on demand. If that were his vision for the future, and if he really didn't care about the money, which he also has said on multiple occasions, then why try to sabotage your competitor Ilya, who you've worked with for years, who you're supposed to be friends with?
Exactly. And it's not only Ilya. There are plenty of these kind of memes where you see the entire list of significant people that have left OpenAI. It's you can't ignore that list. If you're working on something that beautiful, that important, you will think twice before leaving that opportunity. There are just a handful of people that will forever be eternalized in doing something. And I'm on the website of SSI, and this is an interesting quote that comes from Ilya. Our singular focus means no distraction by management overhead or product cycles. And our business model means safety, security, and progress are all insulated from short-term commercial pressures. Some way, somehow, this single line is connected to what's happening on the other side with OpenAI, right?
It must be. Yeah.
Maybe this, you think this better true than me. So I do understand the commercial pressures, what that entails. So you want to work on your product without those pressures, and people just want to make money off your back. But what can potentially Ilya do differently when we're talking about safety that OpenAI is then probably not doing, because everybody is leaving because they don't think he has a safe approach? What are you then doing on your platform that makes it more safe?
It's hard to say if you don't know what Sam Altman is doing that might be considered not safe, right? Because there's so many potential ways this could go wrong. I don't like to talk about that a lot because so many other people love to bash AI already and try and sabotage it. But all I can say is that if you, going all the way back to Nick Bostrom's superintelligence, the thing that he warns about most is the potential for a fast takeoff of self-iterative AI. So an AI that basically reaches a level where it can already fool and outthink its creators and has the ability to start self-improving and then from one day to the next, it takes off and there's just absolutely no way to stop it. And some of the examples that I think he mentions in the books, or maybe I read it elsewhere, but we've already seen this, right? There's been an instance where scientists basically created an AI algorithm on a single chip. So this was nothing nearly as advanced as what we have today, but they basically told it to solve a problem, to communicate something. And eventually what the system came up with was using I think it was the interference from the nearby refrigerator to create a signal and refract that back to a different machine to pass on the information. So it created a wireless communication in a way that this human scientist at first couldn't even figure out what the hell was going on. And I think that this is the thing with this kind of AI. It can think, and we've already seen that, right? It can think in such incredible ways that are so far beyond our own human pattern recognition capabilities, and come up with these incredibly creative, out-of-the-box solutions that no human would ever think of. That if it gets to that level and it is self-iterative, that there will simply be no way to stop it. Right. And this is a risk. And how are you gonna mitigate this risk? The only sure way of mitigating that risk is by creating alignment.
Yeah.
And so I think that and again, this is all speculation, but I would argue that probably the people that left OpenAI, including Ilya, because they disagree with how things are going, probably feel that Sam Altman is allowing too much capabilities to go into the wild without having properly ensured that they're safe or will be safe in the future, because he needs to make money. But on the other side of that is, and this is where I can still understand Sam Altman, is that it seems right now, this is very clear, right? It seems right now that ultimately compute is the single most restrictive resource for improving these models. Now, Ilya Sutskever is the only person maybe in the world that truly understands to what extent that is true, and that might be able to find a way around that. But if that is true, then money is also the singular obstacle. And 5 billion, I hate to say this, but that's nothing. It's a drop in the ocean for what you need, right? There's a reason that Sam Altman is going for the big cash, right? It's because he believes that's the only path to go there. And this is also the only reason I can come up with, outside of being petty, that he might be trying to block other firms.
Yeah, that blocking of other firms, that doesn't compute with me. That is just not how you play, and it didn't fit the character as I saw him up till now. But yeah.
No, but it could be that he simply is being strategic about that. If you consider that the amount of compute that will be available now and in the near future is limited by how fast we can build it, and then it's limited about how much money you have to spend on it, then every single time they invest in a competitor, that will mean ultimately less money for OpenAI. And even if it doesn't mean less money, it means that less compute clusters are available for OpenAI, which it could be that he simply thinks to himself that ultimately that would slow the whole process down, because we'll need all the world's compute in one single place to build these models. This could be a way of thinking about it, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'd say it's very interesting. I think what you laid out as a potential reason to be more safe, referring to Nick Bostrom, is also very much in line with the strategy that Sam Altman just laid out, right? With the levels. Now we have inference, more rationality. Second level is the agencies. Then we have the creative level 4. And then we have 5, which he frames as organizational level, which is then AGI, of course. Which is actually exactly in line with what Bostrom says. If that works not aligned with human goals or intentions, then that is a risky path. But it's the path anyway, right? That's even if
another
Ilya
way. Absolutely. Another way to think of it could be that Ilya is already being strategic and he's thinking further ahead. He's thinking that he needs to make every single company in the world dependent on him for true AI, because that is a measure of control. Right? Because if Ilya builds a company and he does one-shot AGI, but maybe Sam Altman thinks to himself, Ilya is not a capable leader in that kind of way. He can't run a company like that. He doesn't have what it takes to be a good CEO, to manage all the outside influences, because he's a genius. And Tesla was a genius, but Tesla didn't end up nearly as well as Edison, for the simple reason that he wasn't good at running his businesses. Not
that
nearly
makes
as good.
Elon Musk so unique. He can
Yes.
do that. Normally you have a lot of organizations doing the technical part and the business part, and he can do both at the
Yeah.
same time. That's unique.
Absolutely. So it could be that Sam Altman simply just doesn't believe that Ilya Sutskever is the right man to lead this because he wouldn't have the same measure of control. And maybe that his attempt at maintaining that control is also what drove the real scientists out of his team. But I also believe that I have to add this. I think that a lot of the people that left OpenAI, they didn't leave because of disagreement. They left because they realize that we are at a pivotal moment, and no matter what's going to happen next, they have an opportunity now to ensure that their future is set, not just for themselves, but generations to come. This is the pivotal moment for them to leave and to build other companies and to start up for their own, because now the money is available and now they can do this, right? So I think that a lot of it is also simply self-interest.
Yeah.
And they have been at OpenAI for almost a decade for most of them. So I don't think that's very weird. And I think maybe we're all just reading a lot more into it than what's really there.
Could be. I'm sure there's going to be a topic that is recurring every 2 weeks here. We follow it very closely and we love it. And yeah. So let's wrap it up with 2 more topics, Aragorn. Just some plain tools, which is interesting. We just looked at the generative AI tools, and what's missing on there is Pika. And Pika Labs, let me also put it on the screen so we can look at that together, is growing rapidly, right? They have a new release, Pika 1.5. And what I really like is the creativity from fixed images to what you can do with that. Let's see if I can show a couple of that.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
It
Melting
is
effects.
Cool. Ooh, lots of sounds coming through.
Yeah.
It's very cool. Don't get me wrong. And for people who haven't seen this, it's probably very mind-blowing. But I am so done with all these image generation and video generation things.
I'm not.
I've seen
it. I am
It's
totally into that, and I love that they now are reaching a level. Beginning of this year, we said something along the lines of this is going to be the year of video, right? And now we're nearing the end.
No, I never said that. You go on.
Then I said it, and I think now towards the end, if you are in a creative role and you want to make let's say a commercial, at the beginning of the year it was quite difficult to have all the tools in place, and now, because you have the whole frame between just a fixed picture and then moving from a picture that is basically moving with all kind of creative elements to do with any object within the picture. You can have every element, you can move it in any direction that you have. 2 completely generated movies from 30 to 60 seconds means that you now have all the tools in your box to create any video that you would like to create. And that is an interesting tool set. And that all developed during this year, basically.
Yes, and that is true. And coming back to when I interrupted you and I said I never said that. At the start of the year, everybody was saying this is going to be the year of AI video. And I said from the get-go, and I can probably find proof for this, I said, no, this is going to be the year of robotics. Right? So I think we've already covered the robotics. I maintain that. Honestly, the thing with the videos and the images, and I know this for people who've not seen this, they will be blown away. But for me, this is all part of core, right? I knew this was going to happen. I knew this was going to be it. And that was clear from the moment when we made the progress last year. And at this point, it's just not revolutionary. This is what we're seeing is iterative exponential process. And it's already clear to me where this is heading, right? In 1-2 years, it's going to be very simple, literally one prompt for anybody to generate whole movies that are image consistent. These movies can then be translated and changed into 3-dimensional worlds. We'll get technology like you see in Minority Report, where you can forward and rewind, and you can go in and you can make it 3D and you can edit it, and literally everything we've ever seen in sci-fi and beyond that, right? 5 years from now, Netflix, you can prompt your own series.
And that's why you're the futurist. You're a little bit ahead of the curve there.
Yeah.
Hey, but talking about tools, there's one other tool that I would like to discuss. That is Fireflies. Has a very interesting upgrade. And you could argue that is also an iteration. But what basically is happening is that you could have your agent or your AI assistant participating on your Zoom, on your Google call, as if it is a third person that is just part of the team. Who
Yeah.
already, because Fireflies is a note taker tool that started with that, it automatically takes all the notes based on the meeting. It has a nice summary. It can maintain your calendar. But now you have somebody sitting literally on the call that you can ask questions, read the notes back to me, and it feels natural. I think that is a
Yeah.
very nice step up in showing people how AI can be an assistant. I'm sure that you, in all your keynotes, if people approach you, still have struggles to conceptualize how can AI become my assistant in such a way in businesses. Many businesses are not utilizing that.
Coming back to the visual you showed us before from the Visual Capitalist about AI tool usage, and you pointed out how Copilot was pretty low. Then we talked about Gemini, which is still a bit unreliable. And this is exactly the point. And also coming back to my point earlier, you just want to be able to talk to something. We have this technology that has this incredible capacity for having completely intuitive kind of interactions, right? Yet all the ways it's being integrated right now puts it again behind buttons and behind features, and basically it's being integrated in legacy software, which makes it just as hard to use as legacy software. And the whole idea of this technology is that we don't no longer need to have that kind of complicated interaction where you first need to acquire the skills before you can get the benefits, because this AI is what we can just talk to it. So I think that is where the threshold lies for stickiness. Once and you're absolutely right, Fireflies in that sense is going to be a great example of how this AI can become ubiquitous and easy to use. And that then sets us up for really unlocking the power of agentic AI in 2025, I think. But all of it is dependent on that ease of use thing. And I think that none of the big companies have addressed this. I think maybe it's that they're just all so focused on building the latest and greatest model that they're just not really looking at how can we really integrate this in a way that makes it the easiest to use. But it might also be legislation, right? Because why do you me not have? Why do we not have?
It's all of the above, Aragorn. It all entwines together. It's legislation. It is thinking with traditional framing. It's all that. But you said it, 2025, year of the agents. I think that's one of the predictions we can already know down. I totally agree with you there. That's going to be the year of the agents. Then we'll see way more of that. And adoption is also in businesses. A lot.
Yeah.
Hey, can you roll some jazz?
There's two things I need to cover before we wrap it up. So one is that it will happen gradually and then suddenly, because this is the nature of exponential change. You and me complaining it's not going fast enough, and then we'll see there's going to be a weekend somewhere next year, just like we had this weekend with Robos, and then suddenly, bam, it's there, and it's going to blow everybody away. We should expect that. And two, the last thing, we had a point in here about companies going net neutral by 2030. And we discussed this, and you asked the question, does it mean they have to achieve AGI if they're going to spend so much on this energy? And this actually ties back to the power plant discussion we had before, but I forgot this. The truth is that maybe they don't have to, because for those people that don't know, last week, the UK turned off its last coal power plant. So the United Kingdom is fully running now. Its full energy production is non-coal, non-oil. They still have natural gas, but that's already significantly better, right? So if other companies follow suit, and France already has nuclear power and installations, the US is going to build nuclear power installations. So if the world keeps going like this, and the big companies keep incentivizing this, then they won't necessarily have to do so much extra to get to net neutral, because that will solve itself independently of their energy needs. It's just what I think. Okay, that's it.
But to wrap it up, I think that companies should increase the bar there. The aim should not be to become net neutral, but to give back energy in any way, shape, or form that they are contributing to society. That should be the goal. Yeah, but let's take it one step at a time.
Absolutely.
Hit me with some jazz, buddy. It was a pleasure.
Yes, it was a pleasure, and we went massively over time, didn't we? I don't know.
No, not massively.
Anyway,
An hour. No.
before I run the jazz, you, the viewer, the listener, thought that today's content was valuable, or if you just thought it was funny, make sure to like, subscribe, leave us a comment for the algorithm to send our content to more people. Sign up for the newsletter, of course. Go and check us out on YouTube. That's it for now. Patrick and Aragorn signing off, and like they say in the Netherlands, see you later.
See you later.
Innovation Network, Patrick and Aragorn lead the way. Exploring tech's future, what will they say? Inspiring change with vision so bright, our hosts guide you through the future's light. Bridging the gap of exponential growth, Patrick and Aragorn share the truth. Join our community, let's innovate. With Innovation Network, create a brighter fate. Create a brighter fate.